Commissioner. I'm Rita Hawk, Executive Director of Philadelphia VIP. Thank you, Madam Chair and Council members, for inviting us to share our roles in the bigger picture of Tangled Title legal work here today. More importantly, in addition to my Executive Director role, I do want to say that I'm formerly a case manager who helped many Tangled Title clients navigate their legal issues at VIP. So VIP is a 40-year-old nonprofit founded by the Philadelphia Bar Association, and we have a very unique mission: recruiting and training private lawyers who volunteer to represent our clients for free. We do this in collaboration with direct legal aid like Community Legal Services and Philadelphia Legal Assistance to kind of bridge that gap in availability of civil legal services. So in pursuing this mission, and thanks to its unique model of leveraging the capacity of the private bar, VIP also connects the well-resourced law firm and corporate communities with the low-income people who make up over half of Philadelphia's population. Since 2003, with critical support from DHCD, then OHCD, VIP has actually partnered with private attorneys to work on untangling titles on behalf of over 3,000 low-income Philadelphians at risk of losing their homes. We're so grateful to DHCD for its longstanding commitment to addressing this issue, and we're really excited to see the city building out its pool of resources for addressing tangled titles. So 18 years ago, I dug out some old city council testimony from 2003 just to check. These resources helped just a handful of Philadelphians, but by 2021, thanks to this commitment, we've been helping hundreds every year. And I'm confident that we will collectively expand our reach to thousands in years to come and cement ourselves as a national leader on tangled titles. I'm glad Madam Register actually briefly touched on this being a Philadelphia issue, and it is certainly true that Philadelphia raised the concept of the tangled title and has identified this large a volume. But Councilmember Jones, to your point, and as Commissioner Leonard briefly demonstrated, I believe Philadelphia is not unique in having this issue, and nor should we be ashamed of this problem. We should be proud that we have researched it, we've acknowledged it, and we are invested in resolving it. Over the past couple of years, cities like Houston, Waco, Texas, and Pittsburgh have reached out to VIP and its peer organizations to learn how Philadelphia is addressing this issue, and we're thrilled that they can learn from our experiences to launch their programs more efficiently. A perfect example of the learning we can share includes a shout out to the Department of Revenue, because we've told these other community leaders that our programs would not be possible without the extensive collaboration that goes into creating amazing resources like UPA. I will pause there. I will stop there and let you all ask me questions if you want to about these other communities across the country. But what I'm here to talk about today, as others will discuss in more detail, there is no typical tangled title case. No matter the different paths a tangled title can take, one thing is certain: the vast majority are identified years after they occurred, and none of them can be navigated without financial resources. Concurrently, the housing crisis continues to worsen, and there is growing demand for legal assistance with tangled title, often at a crisis point when home loss is imminent. It became apparent that proactive action is just as important as the reactive resources. So as a response, in 2019, with increased support from DHCD, VIP designed a pilot preventative estate planning program. We call this our Preserving Homeownership and Family Wealth Initiative, and it now supports homeownership via its tangled title component and family wealth retention through estate planning. Having a will in place is one of the most effective ways a homeowner can prevent a tangled title from arising. Doing so spares family members the complications and the hassles of trying to unwind a tangled title, which can take over a year to resolve with an attorney on average. Meanwhile, an average estate planning matter takes an attorney, and a volunteer attorney at that, just a few hours to complete. The tricky piece here is sharing the importance of estate planning, because we've often found that our average clients will say, "What do I need a will for? I'm not rich." Right? So through our pilot effort, VIP designed a scalable estate planning outreach program that includes evidence-based outreach components and remains community partnership focused. First, we partnered with the Philadelphia Behavior Sciences Initiative to design a randomized control trial to test the effectiveness of different types of outreach to raise awareness of the importance of estate planning. We're now wrapping up the initial phase, which actually tests the success of a letter versus a flyer, and whether a stamped addressed envelope produces increased response rates. Second, we know from VIP small business outreach that client engagement is most effective when performed in collaboration with groups that have already earned community trust. For this reason, we have deliberately partnered with specific community organizations like CDCs, NACs, religious institutions, and a city council office. These organizations co-present VIP's estate planning services to their constituents and/or refer local homeowners to VIP for estate planning. Finally, with over 10,000 attorneys practicing in the Philadelphia area, there's ample opportunity to deploy lawyers in a volunteer capacity to address this legal need. VIP uses a different number of approaches to inspire attorneys to engage with the larger community, and we've seen great success in drafting these documents for hundreds of clients over just a few years. With sufficient resources, we hope to be able to use what we have learned to scale this service and help more families across Philadelphia. We're so grateful to DHCD, City Council, the Register of Wills, the Commissioner of Records, and everybody else on this call for leading this renewed commitment to making a meaningful difference in the Tangled Title crisis. The legal improvements that are going to follow will allow many Philadelphians who honestly stand alone in a very complex legal system to get the help they need and hopefully prevent future Tangled Titles from arising.
Thank you so much. And we're going to let all the panelists testify before we open up for questions. Ms. Kelly Gasly, can you please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony?
Sure. Good morning. I'm Kelly Gasly, the Managing Attorney at Philadelphia VIP. Thank you to Chair Gauthier, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, and all of the committee members here today to talk about this important issue. And I also echo those thanks to DHCD for its longstanding support and commitment to this issue. There are a few different types of tangled title issues, which I just wanted to stress. You heard Sharon Wilson so aptly described earlier the probate matters. That is really the most common issue that we see come up with tangled title cases, where we're dealing with a home titled in the name of a deceased family member. There are a few other types that I just wanted to make sure we touch on because, as Garrett mentioned as well in his testimony about the Pew report, it did not capture all of the tangled titles out there. So one of those other types of tangled title issues are matters that are resolved through a quiet title action. So these might be a title case where the client is the buyer in a rent-to-own agreement and still does not have title to the home in their name. Or it might be where our client who's come into us for help is the victim of a forged deed or a fraudulent conveyance where they were defrauded into taking title out of their names. Or it might be someone who has an adverse possession claim to their property, which I know so many of us hear inklings about, and there's a lot of talk about in the community adverse possession. But you can make a claim, a proper claim to title, if you've been there for a long period of time and have been acting like the owner of the property. In all of these matters, you file an action in the Court of Common Pleas, which is our trial level court here in Philadelphia, and go through a process of providing notice to the opposing party, and then the case unfolds from there depending on whether the opposing party responds. There are also simpler title issues that we call deed transfers at VIP, which are those more straightforward title cases where the owner of the property is around and willing and able to transfer title over to our client. And these matters, they're much more straightforward. It's great if we can get people in the door when their case is this simple. A common example is something like, a godmother who is the owner of a house and has moved away, wants to give the property to her goddaughter who's been living there, taking care of it, paying the taxes, and they just need help drawing up a proper deed, getting the transfer tax paid, and getting the deed recorded. That's something that is far easier to take care of while we've got everyone around, rather than once the godmother, really kind of, falls out of touch or passes away herself. So those are the issues that at VIP our volunteer attorneys spend a lot of their time on, all three of those types. All of them disproportionately affect Black and Brown Philadelphians, like we've already heard a lot about today. We know that we have actually a really high homeownership rate for Blacks here in Philadelphia, which is really encouraging. But we also know that, unfortunately, a minority of them do not have wills, as Madam Register already discussed. So, we have that racial lens and that backdrop for this issue is it's not just a homeownership issue, it's really a race issue as well. The way that VIP approaches this tangled title problem and this racial problem that we have here in Philadelphia is through three ways. One is trying to prevent tangled titles from beginning in the first place through estate planning, which Madam Register and my colleague Ritha already touched on. The second way is through education and awareness of what a tangled title issue is and how important it is to resolve right away. As I said recently in the presentation that Pew did on their report, time is really not our friend in these matters. We need to really get folks to come into us early, as soon as their family member who owned the home has passed away, as soon as they've entered, maybe before they've entered into that rent to own agreement, whatever the case may be, getting into us and just saying, hey, this is the situation I'm in. What can I do now to make sure it doesn't become a problem? And getting legal counsel right away means that we can turn what could have been a complicated tangled title problem, if it wasn't addressed for years, into something much simpler that we can address now. The third way that we have to solve our tangled title problem here in the city is just making sure we're resolving the tangled title issues that already exist. It requires consistent, persistent, and thorough legal work by legal professionals. At VIP, we match over 100 new tangled title clients with volunteers every year. Before we send a client out to a volunteer, we work with that client to figure out who's in their family tree, who has a legal interest in the home, to reach out to those family members, and to really get the case started and make sure that we have a path to getting the client title. And then once we match a client with a volunteer attorney, we stay involved with the case, we provide our volunteers with support, we build up substantial training materials and templates for our volunteers over the years, because we don't want them reinventing the wheel. We want them focusing on helping their client, because as Ritha said, no tangled title case is the same as the one that came before it. So we want our volunteer attorneys spending time and working through their unique client's tangled title situation and, leaning on us as they need to help that client get title. All of this work really relies on money as well, which we've talked a lot about today. There are costs involved with resolving these title issues. So we're really grateful that we've had the Tangled Title Fund in existence for over 20 years now, actually, which pays for administrative costs associated with clearing title to homes. So things like the transfer taxes that were discussed earlier. So this is really how VIP has approached resolving tangled title issues over the years. And I'm really grateful to have one of our volunteers, Gabby Morrison, who is here today to talk more about what it's like to be a volunteer attorney working on one of these matters. And I just, want to conclude, because Gabby will cover it far better than I can, that, we at VIP really believe that addressing tangled title can have a really widespread impact on our city. Register Gordon, Madam Register, really touched on this well in her testimony, that we are helping individuals by keeping people in their homes, but we're also helping families because we're helping them preserve wealth within their families that can be passed down from generation to generation. And by doing that, we're helping our community. We're providing particularly our Black and Brown neighbors with secure home ownership and trying to advance racial equity in our city as a result of this. So we're excited and we're energized at VIP to bring attention to this issue that we've been working on, and really looking forward to working with City Council and everyone testifying today, who I'm so grateful I already know and work so closely with, to keep expanding upon this work. Thank you so much for having me to testify today.
Thank you so much for your testimony and for your work. Ms. Gabrielle Morrison, please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
My name is Gabrielle Morrison. I'm a full-time trial attorney and I'm a Philly VIP volunteer. I've been involved with Philly VIP since summer of 2018, when I joined the Tangled Title group as a summer associate at my law firm. Philly VIP's work, particularly tangled title cases, piqued my interest because the ease at which families could lose their homes in Philadelphia was very concerning. I could see the effects of the housing crisis as I rode through the trolley from Delaware County in Yeadon, right next door to West Philly, to Center City every day. The homes were dilapidated or abandoned, or sometimes it just simply needed some TLC. But as soon as I hit a specific street, the atmosphere began to change. Homes look renovated and in good condition. And another trend that I observed on my trolley rides is a change in demographic. West and Southwest Philadelphia is mostly populated with Black people, including individuals from the African and Caribbean diaspora. Now, this resonated with me because I'm from an Afro-Caribbean diaspora, if you can't hear my accent, and I understand the value of what a home to someone from similar background means. I wondered what led to these causes and conditions in Philadelphia as an immigrant, and my involvement with Philly VIP answered my questions. Philly VIP provided online resources and in-person resources like manuals and presentations to assist volunteers to understand their role and properly handle cases. Philly VIP staff is always open to answering questions, especially for someone like me who does strictly litigation work, and provided a lot of guidance when needed. So I appreciate that type of assistance and support. It makes it easier for attorneys like myself and others who are in private practice or criminal practice to confidently handle the cases and never hesitate to say yes when Philly VIP seeks volunteers, hence my continued support. And I continue to work with Philly VIP because resolving tangled titles help to maintain the culture and roots of the marginalized individuals in Philadelphia communities. And a big part of fostering culture and passing generational wealth and knowledge is dependent on a settling ground, which is the home. The work I do with Philly VIP helps me to help people to keep their homes, access resources to maintain their homes, and give marginalized populations an opportunity to build, which is an opportunity that otherwise would not have happened. It's very rewarding to hear the happiness and sense of relief in my clients' voices, especially trying to navigate the convoluted systems of Philadelphia. Legal home ownership services like VIP and other organizations are very essential. You know, navigating the probate process is difficult and often expensive for the population that we serve. And so for me, Philly VIP and similar organizations should be a staple for this city and continue to grow such organizations and add more organizations, and so that we can ensure that all Philadelphia residents have an opportunity to comfortably reside in the city. And I want to emphasize comfortably, and build their homes and enjoy the fruits of the city. You know, it's open for a lot of individuals, and we want them to continue to, you know, bask in where they grew up. So I will continue to work with Philly VIP and encourage my colleagues to do so as well. And I hope the city sees the immense value of this organization and continues to support the mission. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony and for your vital volunteer service to our constituents. We really appreciate you. Michael Froelich, please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, everybody. Especially good morning, Chair Gauthier, Councilmember Gilmore, Richardson, and members of the committee. My name is Michael Froelich, and I'm the managing attorney of the Homeownership and Consumer Rights Unit here at CLS. And I'm very pleased to talk today about this topic of tangled titles, the role that CLS plays in helping our clients resolve their titles, and how resolving a title is a critical step to closing the racial wealth gap in Philadelphia. We've heard from so many witnesses this morning discuss tangled titles, and I'm really grateful to be in this community. I wanted to especially thank Ms. Mahan for talking about her personal experience at the top of the hearing. I'm not sure if she's still listening. I know she's at home today caring for her grandchildren, but I really appreciate, Ms. Mahan, your courage and your to step forward and talk about your story this morning. I had prepared remarks for this morning, but so much of what I had prepared is you've already heard from other witnesses and mostly better presented and more succinctly presented than me. So I've gone through and sort of deleted large paragraphs, but I have submitted written testimony as well. CLS is really, really proud to partner with the HCD and other city partners to represent clients resolve their tangled titles. In the last 2 years that we have received dedicated funding from DHCD, we've represented over 200 homeowners with tangled titles and other homeownership issues. We've represented over 200 clients with tangled titles issues, and we have presented at 95 community trainings and outreach programs on tangled titles and other homeownership issues. We've recorded 67 new deeds, and this morning my CLS colleague Dot Goldberger texted me that she's on her way down to City Hall this morning to record 4 more. The process of resolving tangled titles ranges from the simple to the excruciatingly difficult. If the record owner of a home dies without a will, but all intestate heirs are known and cooperative, we usually can resolve the title within a few months. But if we have trouble locating heirs or the heirs are not immediately helpful, the process can drag on for well more than a year. And so much of this work needs to be done before heirs are even in a position where they can go to the Register of Wills and raise their estate. But in addition to raising estates with the Register of Wills, we resolve tangled titles in all sorts of other ways, as Kelly Gasly mentioned. We file lawsuits called quiet title complaints in the Court of Common Pleas. We file petitions directly with orphans courts as an alternative to raising estates. We do deeds of confirmation to clean up complicated co-ownership deeds that many people here refer to as South Philly trusts. We track down long lost owners. We negotiate resolutions to rent to own agreements that have gone south. Sometimes homeowners who have raised their loved ones' estates years ago, but never dealt with the deed to the family home come for help. So there's a lot more really unusual and tricky and situations that we help clients with. As the Pew report found, even the simplest tangled title case can cost over $9,000 to resolve, and most clients that CLS represent have far from simple cases. And so we are deeply appreciative of the city's investment in additional funding to address tangled titles as part of the NPI bond. And we look forward for the opportunity to increase our work in this area. Now, one of the most important parts of pieces of our city's tangled title problem, and Kelly Gasly mentioned this and others mentioned it as well, is that tangled titles do not affect all areas of the city equally. According to the Pew report, homes with tangled titles are disproportionately located in census tracts with higher Black and Brown populations. And at CLS, 84% of our tangled title clients identify as Black, and an additional 15% identify as Hispanic or Latino. It's no secret we have a yawning racial wealth gap in the United States, where the median white household is reported to have 10 times the wealth of the median Black household. And homeownership is a vital, vital part of closing this racial wealth gap, and tangled titles too often thwart this growth of intergenerational wealth. But as others have testified, resolving already tangled titles is only one side of the coin, and we must also be proactive. Madam Register has done an amazing job in getting the message out to neighborhoods throughout the city about home preservation, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. And she does with a clear message: everyone needs to plan, prepare, protect. And that means having conversations now with your children and heirs about what you want to have happen to your house. And it means having a will. Commissioner Leonard mentioned Dr. Thomas Mitchell. He's the Texas law professor who won the MacArthur Genius Award last year for his work on preserving Black home ownership. And in his work, Dr. Mitchell discusses not just a racial home ownership gap, but a racial will making or a racial estate planning gap. And according to Dr. Mitchell, 65% of white families in America have wills, but only 23% of African American families. And what's more, when you look at the college-educated folks, 75% of white Americans with a college education have a will. Only 33% of African Americans with a college education have a will. And I really do think that working together, legal services programs, city officials, the Register of Wills, and others can not just address like existing title problems from the past, but can ensure that future generations do not have these issues. So again, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. This is a critical moment for tangled title issues in our city. And on behalf of our clients, we are so grateful to City Council, DHCD, Madam Register, Commissioner Leonard, and other city officials for really rising to meet this moment.
Thank you, Michael, for your work and for that testimony. Dana Goldberg, are you here and connected?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you state your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. My name is Dana Goldberg, and I'm the Legal Director at Senior Law Center here in Philadelphia. I'd like to say a thank you to Councilperson Gauthier for convening this, and all of the council members for this opportunity to speak to you about the work of Senior Law Center and the importance of tackling what has become known as Tangled Title in our city. I have prepared written testimony, and like Mike, I'm going to excise some of what's already been testified to, and I'm going to really focus on our work and on our population and the effect that this is having on the older community here in Philadelphia. Senior Law Center seeks justice for older adults through direct representation, education, and advocacy. We are the only nonprofit organization in Pennsylvania whose mission is dedicated solely to providing legal services to older persons. We're one of a few in the nation. We provide free legal assistance to thousands of seniors each year, including victims of elder abuse and financial exploitation, grandparents raising grandchildren, and older persons facing homelessness and housing crises. We serve those who are 60 years of age and older, including those who are well into their 100s. The great majority of older people to whom we provide direct legal representation live in poverty at or well below 150% of the federal poverty level. Nearly half of Philadelphia older persons live at less than twice the poverty level, and nearly 10% of Philadelphia seniors live in deep poverty, which is less than 50% of the federal poverty level. Those we serve face not only the challenges of poverty, but also those of aging, which are distinct to each individual, but may include isolation, dependence on others for care, mobility and health challenges, cognitive decline, transportation, depression, and access to services. Housing is perhaps the most critical legal issue facing older people today in light of its enormous impact on every other aspect of life, health, safety, and security. Safe, habitable housing is a basic human right and a racial justice issue. The disparities in homelessness and foreclosure of Black, Indigenous, people of color communities are historic and persistent today. Without a safe, habitable home, there is no ability to age in place, access home and community-based health and support services, avoid institutionalization, and remain in the community near relatives, known neighbors, resources, and comfort. Philadelphia is often referred to as the city of neighborhoods. We pride ourselves on the distinct character of each neighborhood. Philadelphians in particular love those sections of their city where they were born, raised, and in many instances continue to live. The impact of redlining and racial prejudice, however, has left particular neighborhoods vulnerable. Because the individual's home is the setting in which home-based long-term care services are delivered, characteristics of the setting may affect how or what care is provided, or even whether it is feasible to provide care at all. In its 2018 Housing for Equity report, the city of Philadelphia reported over 88% of city homes were built prior to 1980. These aging properties must be repaired and maintained in order to keep our seniors and other residents housed. From the 2018 Public Health Management Corporation's Household Health Survey, the following percentages of homes were in need of plumbing, roofing, heating, cooling system, or some combination of the three. 41% in the Strawberry Mansion neighborhood, 42% in West Philadelphia, 49% in Germantown, and 26% in the remaining parts of the city. As long as titles remain tangled, those residents are not eligible to apply for free city or other home repair programs desperately needed. Additionally, without untangling the title, these older adults cannot avail themselves of needed property tax assistance programs or mortgage refinance programs, which will help ensure that they can remain in their homes. The COVID-19 crisis exacerbated the trend of younger generations moving back into the family homestead with older relatives. Unemployment, the need for care, the impact of isolation, all resulted in an increase in multi-generational households. For many families, the older person's home is the only real estate asset in the family. We have also seen a rise in older generations caring for and raising children, grandchildren in the family due to both COVID and the continuing opioid crisis, as well as other family trauma requiring grandparents to step in to raise the children for the birth parents when they cannot. Protection and maintenance of the home becomes crucial to the lives, stability, and well-being of multiple generations. Tangled title is jeopardizing the stability of our neighborhoods and the stabilities of our families who have inhabited these neighborhoods for generations. In addition, homes are often the biggest financial asset older homeowners have. Many older adults have worked their entire lives to protect this family asset. Denying them access to services to continue and protect ownership punishes these hardworking individuals for growing older and for being poor. It also blocks the ability of this generation to pass on any wealth to the future generation and to keep that wealth in the community. As Pew noted, access to legal services makes an extraordinary difference between losing a home or clearing title and maintaining it for generations to come. Access to justice is essential to make real change in tangled title and homelessness prevention. But untangling title, as all of my colleagues have pointed out, takes time, effort, resources, and expertise. It takes access to an attorney and knowledge of a complex legal and judicial system. Often, untangling title involves probating the estate of multiple deceased relatives, as the Register of Wills pointed out. Older people who attempt probate on their own often do not have access to filing fee waivers and financial assistance made available by various city offices and organizations. And we're very appreciative of the Register of Wills and the changes that have been made. And we encourage those programs or the expansion of those programs. However, older people who are turned away either by the Register of Wills or the Recorder of Deeds for trying to do something on their own, not doing it properly, having put forward the fees or the out-of-pocket expenses, may lose those funds and have to start over again. And they may need help in terms of guidance through the process. Getting clear title is a first step, but it doesn't make property taxes affordable as a neighborhood gentrifies. It does not fix a roof or furnace, and it does not turn the water back on. We work to ensure that our clients get connected with the various programs and agencies that will ensure continued homeownership. We run legal life planning clinics, and we have for many, many years, including throughout COVID, to draft and execute essential planning documents, including simple wills, to empower older persons to direct to whom their property will go after their death. Life planning documents are an essential part of the Tangled Title solution. We serve hundreds of older people with these services every year as part of our many programs, but we have a long queue well into 2022 as demand also far outstrips our capacity, and we are one of the few who provides these services. The solutions to Tangled Title require these multiple steps. With clear title now and faith that their heirs will enjoy the same clear title, older persons are free to invest in and maintain their homes and age in place. Philadelphia continues to have one of the largest and poorest populations of older people in the nation. They have helped to build and grow our city and neighborhoods, raise their families. They are the matriarchs and patriarchs of our communities in each of your council districts. They deserve our attention and investment at this often vulnerable time of their lives. We at Senior Law Center are grateful for City Council's attention to address the issues of housing and homeownership for vulnerable older Philadelphians. Your support, both fiscal, programmatic, and in allied initiatives, will enable our older neighbors to get the legal and practical help they need. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that passionate testimony and for all of your work and advocacy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank also Councilmember Katherine Gilmore Richardson, for bringing this forward. And my question might be from Michael, but anyone can answer it. I have two questions. One is, can you kind of break down, Michael, I think you said in your testimony it was like $9,000 per case, roughly. I heard 9,500 to 9,000, in that range. Can you give me an idea what that breakdown is of those costs?
I can. Thank you so much for the question, Councilmember Dom, and for your sort of involvement in this issue. And if I may, another issue which causes Tangled Titles, the residential property wholesaler bill that you sponsored last year, and it's passed into law. So that number is drawn from the Pew's report. And if you, in my other screen here, I'm going down in their report just because they break it down. This is table 6 of their report. If you look at it, they break it down to being attorney's fees are about half of the cost, plus an additional $3,500 for inheritance taxes, an advertising cost of about $500 to advertise that the estate has been raised, the probate fee for about $475, the recording fee of $257. Garrett Hinken, who testified earlier in the hearing, the author of the report, or the primary author of the report, puts this forward as a simple example of a home that is assessed at $88,800 at the time of death, where all of the heirs are known and cooperative.
And the reason for asking the question, I'm trying to figure out, is there a way that we can save on some of those costs maybe? I mean, I know the Bar Association, I believe, does have people that volunteer to help. Is there a way to expand that? I'm just throwing it out there just to try to figure out how we can get, I mean, it seems to me like we're only addressing potentially with the money we're funding, maybe 8 or 9% of the total Tangled titles out there. And this is like a real issue, like how do we obtain more money? So that's just my thought there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would defer to my colleagues at VIP about private and other legal services programs about private lawyer involvement. I will say that one of the best, dollar for dollar way to resolve these issues is not to have them happen in the future. And that's why I think investing in helping Philadelphians have wills now and doing estate planning now, it makes things so much easier down the road. I know that Councilmember Gilmore Richardson has a bill pending that would work with funeral homes to get the word out about potential wills. I think that's a great step forward. But really, so much of the cost in unraveling a title is, sort of investigative work and trying to track down where these heirs are and working with them and counseling them and talking. It's not uncommon to come across Tangled titles where there are individuals that own 1/12 of the property. And how do you, what do you say to somebody to say, you own sort of 1/12 of your great aunt's property? Really, it's only worth like $800 or $1,800 or something. And to try to work out sort of negotiation with a family member in order to sign a deed to part with that amount or another legal document to part with that amount, since it's really not worth it. And yeah, that's some of the issues that we come across.
My thought is that if we have, let's just say, the top 20, 25 law firms in the city, and over the last 2 years, I'm not going to speak for them, but what I can see in the papers, it seems like law firms have done pretty well during this time period. And I think there's a lot of lawyers in the city who would love to help, and I think there are already many that are helping, but maybe we need to go to those top 25 law firms and say, hey, we need 5, 10, 15, 20 volunteers from each firm. And I think lawyers would feel really good about helping and doing this for free. I'm just putting it out there as an idea. Second comment I wanted to make, and I'm not sure if it could work or not, but I don't know if everyone's aware that we have about $1 billion of federal money that we're has to be from the feds. It should go to child tax credit and EITC. So while I'm listening to this testimonies, I'm saying to myself, how do we connect the dots here? How do we make sure that anyone who has a Tangled title, like goes to a Campaign for Working Families United Way or BDT, and they figure out, wait a second, I can get $6,000 from an EITC, I can get $5,000 for child, whatever the numbers are, and I can use that to untangle this title. Is there connectivity on every one of the people that have tangled titles? Because I got to think that, I know they can't get issues with the revenue department because of the title, but they can get that money because it has nothing to do with real estate. And then they could free up their property and get all the other benefits.
Right, and I think this is an initiative that we at CLS really hope to be able to do seriously with the NPI bond. You know, historically, we haven't been able to prioritize wills because everybody we see is in crisis, and somebody's coming and they're losing their home at sheriff's sale, and then somebody else is coming who wants a will. And so we have, sort of by necessity of limited resources, addressed the person who's about to lose their home. With the NPI bond and the additional city investment, we hope to be able to take a breath and say, look, you know, 24% of CLS clients own their own home, and 47%, almost half of our clients age 60 and over, own their own home. What if, just looking at CLS alone, what if before we left our clients, you know, we helped them with an SSI issue, a food stamp issue, an employment issue, you know, whatever type of issue, before we let them leave, we said, look, we got to do a will together. And that is just sort of like a low-hanging fruit, really. And then if that model works, we can expand on to, you know, the city's 24 housing counseling agencies that do such great work, and on to benefits data trust and with other trusted community partners to offer this as an opportunity.
No, and I applaud CLS and all the others that you guys are doing great work. But I guess my question is, if I had a tangled title and I called you, Michael, and you said, hey, Alan, it costs $9,000 to do this, and I don't have the money. But if you said to me, go call BDT or Campaign for Working Families, and maybe you could fill out some of those forms and get the money. I'm just trying to get that connectivity going so that we can get that federal money, $1 billion, okay? 75,000 families qualify for this, almost 300,000 residents of our city. That's federal money that's free. We can use that money to like untangle these titles in some cases, because I gotta think there's a lot of connectivity here. And then they can apply to the city for some of these other programs. I think it should be an automatic. Anyone who goes for a title, a tangled title, should be connected to one of these sources for these other funds of federal money.
Yeah, so councilperson, so I can speak from Senior Law Center, where we're working with the partners in terms of, we're always evaluating those families who are eligible not only for the new EITC money, but for any programs that are out there. We're not just working with the Tangled Title Fund, but we're looking at all the other resources that are available. We're doing a benefits checkup for our older people to see where can we take out money from the rest of the budget, get them resources for that then can go into the housing. So I believe that all of our partners are working on that now. I would stress with Mike the fact that the prevention part, and I know Registered Gordon is right there with us, that is so important in terms of writing the wills. It also has to come on the back end of untangling the title. And we work with all of the large law firms. They're at our clinics. We're in their sites. We were pre-COVID. But what I can tell you is administering these programs within our agencies does take time, and it takes funds. And our population is at a critical point right now. If we don't get this population right now and get those wills written, you're going to have yet another generation of tangled title. So I do think that our commitment to the city, in addition to untangling those that are already tangled, is getting out there into the neighborhoods and giving some funding to get those wills written so we don't have another generation lost where this has not been repaired or they haven't directed to whom it's going to go.
Okay, I understand. Anyway, thank you all for your testimony, and I'm committed to trying to help get all of the tangled titles untangled. So whatever I can do to help, let us know. Thank you.
Heather Hewlett, can you please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony?
Good morning, thank you. My name is Heather Hewlett. I'm the Director of Legal Advocacy at Christian Legal Clinics of Philadelphia. Tangled Title is one of many of our practices. Like VIP, we utilize a network of volunteers to help low-income Philadelphians. So we touch everything from immigration to family law to landlord-tenant, some guardianship, record clearing, and unemployment. Since this past January, we've helped raise 12 estates with the assistance of PDI and Tangled Title Fund. And they're on their way to finishing up. We have 22 that are still in the pipeline being worked on. As many have already acknowledged, Tangled Titles a crisis, and it needs attention, it needs money. I'm glad to see that it's getting both today. It needs free legal services. It contributes, if so many have said, to these blocks where all you see are boarded up houses. I live near Point Breeze, and it was boarded up houses, and now it's luxury condos. We're like handing neighborhoods away if we do nothing to address this. VIP through their Tangled Title Fund and the educational materials have been lifesavers to me. You guys are so helpful with my practice, and the materials have actually helped so many of our clients directly take a lot of these steps. So I think the educational materials and just the information you can find through them are wonderful. The fund has been wonderful. You hear from me a lot. However, legal services and money are good. But as Michael was attesting, there's a lot of Tangled Title situations that it doesn't touch, right? Heirs can't be found. The client doesn't live in the home. So, they find out there's 32 heirs. They're like, right? It's just an empty house. It's waiting for the area to be gentrified enough for a developer to come along, right? They don't live in the home, so they don't qualify for Tangled Title. They're just not poor enough, right? I have a guy today, he's just not poor enough. There's a Medicaid claim. I mean, that's a bigger issue than that, that's a state issue, but these cases that have Medicaid claims and they don't qualify for the hardship waiver, those are situations where they've got to walk away, and that house, again, will sit until a developer finds it interesting enough to do something with it. While we need to, and we have to stop the bleeding, and I think today's effort is there. We have to educate people better. We have to focus on prevention. It's not as if death is uncommon or it's not going to touch everyone. If we're doing our jobs, because everyone has a house, passing down to the next line. I appreciate when leaders can cite their own experiences to say, I didn't know what to do. And if I didn't know what to do, then my constituents don't know what to do. So I thank Ms. Gilmore Richardson for sharing that story. That would be my story. I'm a lawyer, but before I did this work, did I know how to do anything? No. When my grandfather died, I had to figure it out, just like you did. We have to consider the ways in which we can demystify the whole thing. I'm interested in working as a lawyer, but I'm not interested in us needing to exist as a legal services forever. We should be trying to shut ourselves down, right? Most people don't have complicated estates. They have a family home, they have a checking account, a savings account, maybe life insurance. They don't need complicated wills. The probate process is complicated for attorneys, much less for non-attorneys. I think getting a working group together, how can we make this more accessible? How can we make this less mystical? How can we, a fill in the blank will would do it for a lot of people. They're not great, but they would do it for a lot of people with the type of estate that they have. Everybody can't afford an attorney, so we need to make it possible for people who don't have that access. It can't be a lottery system of the people who happen to get in the door at CLS or VIP or us. Everybody needs to be able to estate plan, and everyone needs to be able to probate. We have a group of practitioners, myself being one, focused on just putting together presentations to communities we serve. We are, our whole model is being set up in communities. And I think, who was saying this earlier, I believe from VIP, that finding those trusted entities within communities and connecting there, right? They don't know me, but they know Canaan Baptist. They don't know me, but they know Philadelphia Access Center, right? And they trust that place and the people there, and they know those people. So if we can connect with those folks who are already leaders, and get information to the communities they serve, that they exist in. Funeral directors, right? They interact with our clients, getting information to them on why estate planning is important, and just the basic roadmap of probating, what to do, the steps to take when somebody dies, right? People don't know this, even just a myth busting, right? Here are all the things that, did you know your stepchildren will get nothing unless you make a will? There's huge barriers with people wanting to talk about death. It's not something people like to do. So even just making that normal, everybody's going to die, right? Normalizing that we need to do estate planning. Everybody we do probate for comes back and does a will with us. We bother them to death until they do it, because they know what it is to deal with a tangled title. Hey, now you own a house. Take care of your business so that you're not putting this on the next generation. So I'd like to see us really focus on prevention and how we can demystify the whole thing. We could do that with a lot of legal areas, but this is one where we're seeing the result, we're seeing the crisis. So I'd love to be part of that. And I really thank you guys for letting us be part of the discussion here today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your testimony and for your service. And Joanne Wardell, can you please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony?
Thank you so much, Councilperson Gauthier, and thank you, Councilperson Gilmore Richardson, for the invitation to testify here today. My name is Joanne Wardell, and I am the co-supervising attorney of the Consumer Housing Unit at Philadelphia Legal Assistance. PLA provides free legal assistance to thousands of low-income Philadelphians every year. And within PLA, the Consumer Housing Unit assists homeowners who are facing the loss of their homes due to mortgage foreclosure, tax foreclosure, tangled title issues, and predatory lending or deed theft scams. PLA also operates the Save Your Home Philly hotline in partnership with the City of Philadelphia and the Philadelphia court system. And the hotline serves as the central point of contact for homeowners in Philadelphia who are facing mortgage foreclosure, tax foreclosure, and tangled title issues. The hotline assists thousands of homeowners every year. And in fact, much of PLA's current work on tangled title issues really evolved out of our work operating the hotline and working in close partnership with the Mortgage Foreclosure Diversion Program. Within the diversion program, PLA is the primary point of contact for those cases that have come to be known sort of colloquially as the block cases, those foreclosure cases in which some title issue is effectively blocking resolution of the foreclosure case, and it has to be resolved in order for the parties to move forward with a loan modification or other workout. And as our work in this area has expanded, we have prioritized those cases where the tangled title presents some urgent risk to the home, right? So like Mike was saying, also CLS, we are focused on folks who are about to lose their home, pending foreclosure, mortgage foreclosure, tax foreclosure. And we've also started prioritizing those cases where a homeowner needs title in order to access financial assistance for repairs or other city services. And finally, for the next 2 years, we will also be hosting an Independence Fellow who will focus on representing homeowners in the Norris Square neighborhood who have a claim via adverse possession to side lots that they have cared for as gardens or yards for decades and which are now facing intense gentrification pressure. So as Mike said, and as others have said, tangled title cases, they range from fairly straightforward to just incredibly complex. A recent case on the sort of extreme end, a recent case that we litigated successfully at trial earlier this spring required over 250 hours of attorney time over 2 years. And that's on the very extreme end. When heirs are available and can be found and are cooperative, cases can be resolved usually fairly simply within a few months. Since 2019, PLA has assisted over 400 low-income homeowners with tangled title issues, providing legal advice, referrals, brief service, and in some cases, full representation by an attorney. Since 2019, we've helped at least 79 Philadelphians obtain clear title to their home, and we've provided legal advice on how to probate an estate or other brief service to more than 300 others. Obviously, that's a drop in the bucket against a backdrop of more than 10,000 tangled titles in the city of Philadelphia. And so we are so grateful for the city's and for council's commitment and investment in additional funding to address these tangled titles. And we look forward to expanding our work on behalf of low-income homeowners in Philadelphia. So if others have said a tangled title does more than just tie up equity and wealth. Tangled titles are an affordable housing issue. It can make it impossible to access critical services such as the city's basic systems repair program. I can't tell you how many clients I've talked to where there's a hole in their roof, right? Or there's just urgent repairs that they need and they can't get those repairs because we can't untangle the title quickly enough. A tangled title can even cause a home to be lost entirely. When a homeowner dies and if there's a mortgage on the home, the mortgage company may be perfectly happy to accept money as long as the account is current. But if someone falls behind, if the heirs fall behind, or if something else goes wrong, the title issues typically need to be resolved and resolved quickly in order to save the home from foreclosure. We frequently talk to folks who are so frustrated because the mortgage company won't speak to them because they're not the account holder, right? They're not the person who took out the mortgage. And as the Pew report makes clear, Tangled Titles in Philadelphia, they're not affecting everyone equally. The vast majority are concentrated in census tracts where the majority of residents are Black or Brown, and that data is consistent with the cases we see at PLA. Approximately 80% of PLA's clients with Tangled Titles identify as Black, another 12% as white, and 5% as Hispanic or Latinx. In addition, approximately half of our clients with Tangled Titles there are also children in the home. So these are intergenerational households that are working to maintain their longtime family home, and which is often the only home they can afford. So as others have already testified so powerfully, the challenge is obviously huge, right, with 10,000 Tangled Titles, but we look forward. We're so grateful to be working with our partners already, and we're grateful for everyone's commitment to this work. So as others have said, there are a couple issues, right? You have to address both preventing more Tangled Titles from happening in the future while also dealing with the 10,000 and plus Tangled Titles that we already have. So education about estate planning, as others have said, is critical to avoid more Tangled Titles in the future. In my personal experience, there's a couple of sort of key, I would call them misconceptions that are fairly widespread in the city about inheritance and estates that contribute to the scale of the problem in Philadelphia. So first, many of the folks that I've spoken with, many people believe that if a deceased family member wanted a particular person to have the house, then that house is theirs. And it can come to as a surprise to folks that the law says something different if the person didn't have a will. Second, many people believe or assume that if they are the ones who lived in a family home and took care of it for years after their family member died, that it belongs to them. And that I absolutely understand why people may think that, and it seems fair, right, if you're the one who's been taking care of the home. But we frequently talk to folks who are frustrated and can't understand why they need to jump through so many hoops, getting death certificates, finding lost heirs, filing petitions with the Register of Wills or Orphans Court, when they've been living in the house, they've been paying the taxes, they've been paying for the upkeep. So I think education about estate planning and the importance of having a will is really critical. Second, right, with over 10,000 existing Tangled Titles in the city of Philadelphia, it will take a dedicated, concerted effort by all of the legal services providers in Philadelphia, along with our pro bono partners in the city, to help homeowners obtain clear title to their house. So as others have mentioned, resolving Tangled Titles can be a very slow process, but the result is worth it. When homeowners have clear title, they can access critical services and they can tap into the equity in their homes to make investments. So I just want to provide one example, and then I'll wrap up, of what an investment in this work can accomplish. I recently represented a young man who was referred to us by the Community Asthma Prevention Program at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. So Mr. Sharp, my client, who was kind enough to allow me to share his story with you today, has a young child with asthma. He and his family live in West Philadelphia in a home that had been owned by his mother, who passed away several years ago. So this home urgently needed repairs to address environmental triggers that were exacerbating his son's asthma. And CAP it's an amazing program. They were prepared to do the work, to do the repairs, but he had to have title in his name before they could do the repair work. There's also an outstanding mortgage on the property, which had become delinquent after his mother passed away, and which couldn't be resolved until he had obtained clear title. And complicating matters a little bit, which goes to the issue of estate education about estate planning. His mother had left a will and directed that the home be left to her son, but because it hadn't been completed correctly, it was deemed invalid and couldn't be probated. So my client had to negotiate with his sibling who did not live in the home, and you can understand why he might have been hesitant to essentially give away what he thought was his inheritance. But because the mortgage on the property consumed pretty much all of the equity, we were able to explain to his brother that, look, if you force a sale of this house, no one's getting anything, right? And so ultimately we were able to explain and convince him to assign his interest in the house to his brother. And the Tangled Title Fund, which is also, we rely on all the time and is such a wonderful resource, covered the cost of probating the estate, as well as the inheritance taxes. And now my client is the sole owner of his home, and he's moving forward with getting those repairs that he needs to address his son's asthma. So as Tangled Title cases go, this is a pretty simple one, but it still needed an attorney to kind of get it over the hump, right? And this is just one family, but there are thousands of others like them in Philadelphia. So again, I thank you for the invitation to testify today, and just want to express again how grateful we are for the city council's commitment, for the city's commitment to the issue of affordable housing, for the Register of Wills and our partners and the Recorder of Deeds. And we look forward to working together with everyone to address this critical issue.
Thank you so much for your testimony and your very important work. And I see that there are questions for the panel from Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I want to thank all of you so much for your work and for all you do to work with our constituents across the city. I wanted to start with each legal aid service organization, and I know Melissa addressed this in her testimony partially relative to the allocation of revenue to the legal aid organization. So for each of you, if you could just respond to the assistance you receive directly from the city for this work. So for each legal aid organization represented, if you could detail the city funding that you receive for this work. And we'll start with VIP, Community Legal Services, Philadelphia Legal Assistance, then Senior Law Center, then Christian Legal Clinics of Philadelphia.
Thank you. Kelly, you can go ahead. Oh, got it. Perfect. Thank you for bearing with us as we coordinate. So Philadelphia VIP gets by far the largest city contract regarding Tangled Titles. And we are, by the way, so excited because Councilmember Dom kind of touched on this, but we're so excited for all of legal services to get in the game and start getting more funding to do this directly. But we get about a 560, sorry, I'm just pulling it up right now. So we get Cdbg funding in the amount of $100,000. We get, and that goes directly to program services. So it supports staffing and volunteer costs, and $75,000 in city general funding, which goes directly to the Tangled Title Fund, and $290,000 for in HTF new funding, okay, which goes toward it goes toward staffing costs, overhead, etc. And then another $100,000 in HTF monies that all goes toward the Tangled Title Fund. So it's altogether, we have about 200-ish thousand, sorry, I'm really bad at mental math, dedicated to the Tangled Title Fund. So when you see the entirety of our city contract, that is comprised of both staffing costs and also of Tangled Title Fund costs.
Okay. Okay, thank you very, very much. CLS, and then quickly we'll go to PLA and the Senior Law Center and Christian Legal.
Yep, very quickly, since July 1st, 2019, CLS has received $125,000 per year in Housing Trust Fund money for Tangled Title. In addition, CLS has a long-standing contract with DHCD for $440,000 to do mortgage and tax foreclosure work, or represent clients with mortgage and tax foreclosure work. So if, as part of the representation in the mortgage or tax foreclosure work, there happens to be a Tangled Title, that work will also be funded under the $440,000. I would estimate maybe, I don't know, 10% of those clients represented under that general mortgage and tax foreclosure contract also have Tangled Titles.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. PLA?
PLA gets, again, since July of 2019, has received, I believe, $85,000 a year for Tangled Title. And we also have a separate contract with the city to run the hotline, and the hotline paralegals on that who are working under that contract obviously are flagging those cases for us. And I believe the hotline contract might, I'd have to get back to them on that. It may be about I'm not sure, but the Tangled Title work explicitly is 85 a year.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. A Senior Law Center?
Yeah, so although we receive money from DHCD, that's strictly for the mortgage foreclosure diversion program. And we're doing triage work and we work in conjunction with the housing counselors. So our Tangled Title work that we're doing, and we've had over 670 calls in the last 5 years, is not funded by any city money at all.
Okay, but you do oversee mortgage foreclosure prevention work for
Yes.
the city. Okay,
Yes,
and
we
how much is that?
If it's okay with you, Councilwoman, I can get that to you off the record. I just want to
Yes.
make sure that I give you the correct amount.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. And then for Christian Legal Clinics?
Yeah, we actually don't receive any government funding, federal, state, or local for this work. We just simply had clients come to clinics and this is what they needed. We get all of our funding from individual donors, churches, and family foundations right now.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Madam Chair. I'll reserve the remainder of my questions and I'll submit them for the record, okay? And then for the working group. Thank you very much.